Hello, gorgeous souls, and welcome to the Anxiety Workshop. I am so grateful that you've joined me for this hour, and we're going to take a real deep dive into talking about anxiety and how it can be affecting you, how to know if you've got it. I'm going to be talking about the things that can really help your process of healing it. And I'll also share my personal journey as well about the practical tools that have helped me heal and how I experience anxiety. And most of all, I just want you to know that you are not alone in this, and that if you are suffering profoundly from anxiety or an anxiety disorder, right now, I do want you to know that it can be healed, and I promise you that things can and will get better. This is not something that you need to suffer profoundly from for the rest of your life. So let's dive deep, shall we, dearest? Now, during this, I am going to be denoting the times when we're about to change the next slide with the most ridiculous sound in all of history, which is... oh yes, that's exactly what's happening. Now, as always, I like to share about how to get actual results from this hour. And I always want to remind you that multitasking really is a fallacy. Solo focus is actually the best way for you to dive in and get all of the nutrients that you need out for yourself and for your brain and for your spirit. I also encourage you to have pad and paper in hand and to really give yourself some actionables. So I don't want you to write this in a notebook and put the notebook away and for you to find it on a shelf 6 months later or a year later and realize that you still haven't implemented any of the things that you've written. So commit to a deadline for the things that you want to take action on and implement it in the next one day or next 1 week. And you can also buddy up with an accountability buddy to support each other on this healing journey. So what you're going to be learning during this anxiety workshop, you're going to learn how to recognize an anxiety disorder and what to do if you think you have one. I'll of course share my no holds barred vulnerable story about living with an anxiety disorder, from being crushed by it to thriving with it, and how to heal it with tools and options from alternative Eastern and Western medicine, because I love them all. Whether you think you might have an anxiety disorder yourself or you're supporting someone who has one, this workshop's really going to deep dive into anxiety and all of its troubles and gifts. So make yourself a cup of fragrant tea, get yourself a cushion and a rug, and let's circle. Let's talk about the anxiety that so many of us carry and how we can heal it. Now, a disclaimer before we go in, I just want to say I am not a doctor. Dr. Leonie Dawson is not in the house. I am doctor of love and brilliance. I don't know. I'm a love doctor. No, I'm not a doctor. This is only my personal experience. And it's really important for you to talk to your doctor about the right options for you. What works for me may not be the right choice for you in your personal mental health makeup. And I really just share my experience and understanding with an open heart, in the hope that some of it is useful, and that just hearing my story gives you hope and knowing that you are not alone in this. So first and foremost, what is anxiety and how does that affect us? This is really talking about something tender and deep, and this has been something that's been a part of my world for years now, that I've mentioned occasionally, but up until now I haven't opened up fully about it because it wasn't the right time just yet, and now it is. So anxiety, I have it, you may have it, you probably know somebody who has it, whether you're just experiencing anxiety or you have a full-blown anxiety disorder. It really is such a huge issue for so many people today. As many as 1 in 4 people suffer from it. What's more, if you're a woman, you're actually even more likely to suffer from it. If you are a mother, you are even more likely to suffer from it. We as women, as carers, as empaths, and as parents, we are at an even higher risk of anxiety than the rest of the population, and the rest of the population's 1 in 4. So the odds are high for us, guys. The odds are high. And the thing is, so many people suffer from it and they don't talk about it. And it's this like kept secret, and it's swept under the rug and it's not spoken about. And in that silence, there's suffering and loneliness and heartache. And I want you to know that I understand that, because it's taken me a number of years to be able to talk about this. And I've learned so much about anxiety. And I remember when I first realized I had a full-blown anxiety disorder, that I felt a lot of shame in that. And I hadn't heard many stories up to that point of my friends and people that I knew having anxiety disorders or experiencing anxiety. And so I felt dreadfully alone and ashamed that it was something that I shouldn't be experiencing. And since I've healed through that and learned so much from those who have been willing to share about anxiety with me, and also because it has been, one of those big dark nights of the soul to move through for me, I feel like I want to pay it forward, because I've learned so much and I don't want to see other people suffer. So I will just share my story with you, and I want you to know that you're not alone. And there's so many of us out there, and we can make this through together. You don't have to do it alone. It's time to talk about anxiety and all that goes with it. I have anxiety. I have a general anxiety disorder. I used to think it was a failing, something to hide and wrestle with and live with in secret, pretending that it was all okay. And then I discovered that it was okay to be not okay. And it was okay to need help. And what's more, that help made all of the difference in the world. I've wrestled in anxiety's grip, and I know how it feels to live with the constant crush against my chest, the inability to breathe, and the constant clenched hands. But I also know how it feels to heal and to accept the help that I need to get back to myself, to accept the things that I need so that I can thrive. So in this workshop, I'll share frankly about that journey, along with those practical tools that have helped me heal and thrive, and the lessons I've learned along the way with other people going through anxiety, and the things that have worked for them as well. Now, I created this as an extra slide because I think a lot of you probably need to write down those numbers, and really, really let it sink deep into your bones that it is okay that you have anxiety. What's more, it's a statistical likelihood that you have anxiety, and you are not alone in this. One thing that I love to talk about, Glennon, Doyle, Melton, one of my favorite writers, says that we are the canaries down the mine shaft. We, the excitable ones, the empaths, the highly sensitives, the intuitives, the healers, the teachers, we are actually more likely to experience anxiety because of who we are. We are, because we have more excitement, that means that we have more adrenaline running through our system than most people. And adrenaline, excess adrenaline in the system, creates anxiety. So it's absolutely normal and totally cool. Well, I mean, it's not cool because it's not fun to experience, but 100% understandable that we have anxiety. So let's talk about the different kinds of anxiety, because when I first started on this healing journey, I did not realize that people experienced anxiety in different ways. And so I just wanted to share about this here, just so you can have a little think through about what may trigger you and what might create anxiety for you. Some people have social anxiety or agoraphobia. That means that in social settings, or if you're outside of your comfort zone, you're going to experience anxiety, and you're also going to experience anxiety thinking about getting out of your house. You also may have anxiety over specific circumstances. For example, phobias, like you may be, quite claustrophobic, but to the point where you feel a little bit of anxiety thinking about it, and make sure that you kind of avoid those situations. You may actually be experiencing anxiety because of a life circumstance where you have had an increase in stress, and it is completely normal for when you have an increase in stress for your body to produce more adrenaline, and you experience that as anxiety. You may also have generalized anxiety where you're actually not sure what you're anxious about. You're just anxious. You just feel anxious. It may manifest as well as obsessive compulsive disorder, because that's a way of trying to control the anxiety. And you may experience anxiety from post-traumatic stress disorder. And I forgot to mention in here, but I'm going to put it in right now. You may also have anxiety because you have antenatal or postnatal depression and anxiety. It may not even feel like depression to you, but antenatal and postnatal equals anxiety. When I had postnatal depression, for me, it was postnatal anxiety, and a huge percentage of women experience it. Now, things to know about anxiety, part one. I want you to know that I get it deep in my bones, deep in my chest, that it feels like shit. It feels like absolute shit to be experiencing anxiety. And if you are going through it right now, or if you live under its shadow, I just want you to know that I'm so sorry that you're having to go through this. I remember the days when it hung over me and formed a part of my very existence. And it was one of the most excruciating times of my life. And if that's happening for you right now, I'm so sorry that you're going through that. And I know how fucking horrific it feels. And I am sending you so much love and compassion and understanding. And the second thing is, from a chemical perspective, there's a reason that you experience anxiety. I've just mentioned it. It's the overproduction of adrenaline in the system. So if you've worked your adrenals too much because of stress or parenting or whatever circumstance, the excess adrenaline is experienced as anxiety in your body. So you'll be like, yeah. When you go over the line from excitement and adrenaline, it's just like, fuck you, this is anxious. And if you're producing that much of it, you'll like live in that downward state of fuck this constantly. So it's bullshit, and I'm very sorry that you've experienced it. Part two of things to know about anxiety. Anxiety, I just want to say, I don't want to scare you away, but anxiety can be difficult to heal. It does take a little bit of time, and it often needs a multi-pronged healing approach. However, and I want you to know, if you're suffering deep in its grip right now, I promise you that there are going to be things that you can do, and you will see a really marked difference within a week, within 2 weeks. And I'll tell you which of those things get you the yay factor sooner rather than later. Another important thing to know is that if you have a predisposition to alcoholism, or if you have somebody in your family who is an alcoholic, 9 chances out of 10 is that they actually have an undiagnosed anxiety disorder, that they are self-medicating with alcohol, because it slows down the nervous system while anxiety speeds it up. So they're actually self-medicating, literally, and the alcohol is slowing the system down while anxiety speeds it up. Now, this is actually not a good long-term solution, because alcohol, whilst it might slow down the nervous system, it builds reliance, and so you need more of it in order to combat that anxiety, which is why you become an alcoholic. And 2, obviously you're going to get other effects out of that, like, liver function, that kind of shit. And Alcohol is a depressant, and so while it might wind down your anxiety, it can move you into depression. Blah, blah, blah. And the next part about anxiety is, in my personal experience, I have a form of general anxiety, and I didn't think I had an anxiety disorder because I don't tend to look like the kind of person who's an anxious personality. I don't have an anxious personality. I feel anxiety when I've overdone myself. And for me, it's a really useful indicator and barometer for me of how far I've strayed from my soul when I'm overworking, doing too much, being out in public too much, or packed my schedule too much, or not getting enough sleep because I'm parenting. Boo! So even if you don't actually fixate on anything, my husband always says, what are you feeling anxious about? And I'm like, remember, I have the kind of anxiety that I'm not anxious about anything. I'm just experiencing anxiety because my body is like, it's magical. So now the part I'm sure you're all been waiting for. Yeah, things that help or manage anxiety. What?